We are already well above that right now, just a sign that there is some much colder air on the way that will translate into snow in some places. Let's get into the forecast because this is going to be a dynamic system that moves into the northeast and parts of the Ohio Valley. It's going to pull down some cooler air, cold enough that it starts to mix with some of the moisture, leading to the chances of accumulating snowfall. Where we're most likely to see the really good accumulating snowfall is going to be, of course, the higher elevations. It always is in the early season, not just West Virginia, but you go up into New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, where the ski resorts are going like, yeah, 2 thumbs up. We're really excited about this next system. And we're pretty much right on track for our first average snowfall of the season. But, you know, it's always been much earlier. Or I shouldn't say always. It has been earlier in the past as you look back towards October, where we've seen some snowstorms in October before. Not this year. It was way too warm. We're going to start off with some warmer air, and that's going to allow for the rain to move in initially. Watch as the cold air starts to wrap around the backside of the system. Meanwhile, can't leave out the northeast here, where that very beneficial rain will be falling on many of those wildfires that have been burning for weeks now. Columbus, Pittsburgh, Charleston, all seeing the snow coming down. That includes areas like Happy Valley. And then you can pick out the higher elevations as that warmer air starts to move back in, because the only places that we're going to see the snow remaining throughout the entire duration of this system is going to be at those higher elevations. Lynette, still some big differences in our models. This is the European model, but then you look at the American model and it's a lot more widespread, believing in more of that colder air staying around for longer.
All right. Thanks, Molly. This
news. And as the days get colder up north and the days aren't so hot down in Florida, snowbird season is getting underway. But after back-to-back hurricanes on Florida's Gulf Coast, where many snowbirds head to, some wonder if they'll be deterred to return. Reporter Matt Fortin from our NBC partners in Boston has the story. From what is Tropical Storm Sarah made landfall along the coast of Belize, but is now moving more than it was yesterday. So yesterday at this time, stationary, and that caused a lot of moisture to be fed over and over again into areas like Belize as well as Honduras, where there's just tragic flooding going on right now. But this is eventually going to cross the Yucatan and exit into the Gulf. But by the time it crosses all of that land, there's not much organization left to it right now. There's not going to be anything left to it but just remnants. And that moisture is going to be drawn up by this next front moving in along Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, into the Florida panhandle, and then eventually pretty much across the entire state of Florida, seeing that tropical moisture from what's left over from Sarah. Now, keep in mind, these are some of the same areas that just dealt with the leftover moisture from Hurricane Raphael. Now, the moisture is feeding into our severe weather threat, but it's also feeding into our flash flooding concerns as we get into Tuesday and eventually into Wednesday. Severe weather today into tomorrow, Texas over into Louisiana and parts of Arkansas. But watch as we bring the rain now. New Orleans, Mobile, Montgomery, Atlanta. This is Tuesday afternoon. Just keep in mind, Atlanta, Tuesday, the commute, morning, evening, they're both going to be terrible with the rain coming down. Same goes for you in Nashville as well as Birmingham. Savannah seeing the rain by the evening time on Tuesday. Eventually this exits with just some rain remaining in North Carolina and Florida by the time we get to Wednesday. But this is going to be beneficial for a lot of areas that are suffering through drought. And with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, thank you so much for being with us this morning and the great information there. I mean, think how difficult it is to repair some of those sections which are far off the beaten path. Mm-hmm. They have large trees. You have to get the equipment in there in order to get those trees and the ground prepared. It's such a huge effort.
Yeah, and it takes a village to really get it done. So I can see why it will take a while to happen, but hang in there.
We'll be right back. Today in a lot of places that we have some really good football games. Let's start on the West Coast into San Francisco, where all we're dealing with here is the cloud cover. That's going to keep temperatures very steady throughout the game. Kickoff is at 1:05, and we're going to stay pretty much in the mid to upper 50s throughout the entire duration of the game. Let's go down to Inglewood, California. Yes, we've got the sort of roof, we'll call it, over SoFi Stadium, but you don't need it today really, because we've got perfect weather in the 60s towards the later part of the afternoon. And once the sun goes down, we stay in the 50s. To Highmark Stadium we go, and we're kind of getting into that time of year that maybe we can start to see some of those lake effect games. I know that the Buffalo Bills fans love those games. It's not this weekend. In fact, we've got fairly warm weather for Buffalo, New York, as Kansas City is visiting. We're going to see temperatures hover right around 50 degrees throughout the duration of the game. And let's go to Pittsburgh right now, where the kickoff is at 1 p.m., where we're going to see pretty nice weather. Yes, some clouds, but you'll see some sunshine throughout the game as Lynette's Baltimore Ravens take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Lynette, I know you'll be watching this one.
I sure.